What you have done is wrong. Because what happens is the Israelites have been overrun by the Babylonians. And so God has disciplined them. God has not punished them. There's a big difference between discipline and punishment. Punishment is done out of anger and to hurt someone. Discipline is to help someone get better. So like kiddos, here's the deal, right? Mom says, go sit on the steps for 3 minutes and get time out. That's not because she hates you. It's not because she wants to hurt you. She's wanting you to catch your breath for a minute, think, and go, okay, here is how you could have done this differently. It's not because she's trying to make life miserable for you. She's really, everything she does is to say, I want to make his life better. Your dad does the same thing. Not trying to hurt you, make life miserable for you, but saying, hey, look, how can I help your life get better? And so that's what has happened is that God has said, look, the Israelites, you've turned your back on me. You've walked away from me. I want you to just take time out and think about what's going on here just a little bit. Next verse says, behold, I will make you small among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. Now, I said the Babylonians had conquered the Israelites, right? And so what happens, the Edomites, after they're already oppressed and life is hard for them, the Edomites go, we're going to come and make your life even harder. Now that you're weak, we're going to take advantage of you even more. And God said, here's what I'm going to do, because you're picking on your cousins. You're picking on my people. I'm going to make you small. You think you're all that in a bag of chips? I'm going to make you small. Among the nations, you shall be utterly despised. The pride of your heart has deceived you. You think you're more than you really are, you who live in the clefts of the rock. And I'll show you this in just a minute. In your lofty dwelling, who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Because they think they're untouchable, that nobody can mess with them. They think that they're much more than they really are. It's as though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars. From there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. It says, you're up here and you're full of pride. I will bring you down. You're trying to hurt oppressed people. It says, if thieves come to you, if plunderers came by night, how you have been destroyed. Would they not steal only enough for themselves? If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleaning? So somebody comes in and robs you. They don't take every single thing in your house. They take a few things that they want. If someone's to steal your food, they wouldn't take everything that you got. They would leave a few things behind. But God says, look, I am going to wipe you out. That's what I'm going to do. You're not going to have anything left in your houses. You're not going to have any food left. And he says how Esau has been pillaged, his treasure sought out. He says all your allies have driven you to your border. These at peace with you have deceived you. They have prevailed against you. Those who eat your bread have set a trap beneath you. You have no understanding of, he says, you don't understand what's about to happen to you. You think you've got it all put together, but I am God and I am going to take care of my people. Will I not on that day, declares the Lord, destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of Mount Esau? So you think you're smarter than other people? No, it's not going to work out that way. It says, and your mighty men shall be dismayed, O Teman, so that every man from Mount Esau will be cut off by slaughter. Now remember, he says a minute ago, he says, you're in their lofty places, high in the rocks, the cleft of the rock, Mount Esau. Well, maybe you've probably seen this in a movie, maybe you've seen it on National Geographic or something, but this is the entrance to Mount Esau. And this is one of the reasons that they felt like that nobody could mess with them, because this is the entrance right here. That's how you get there. An army cannot come in mass against that when you have to almost walk single file to get in there, right? And so, and let's do the next slide. And so you may have seen this several different places as well. And today it's called Petra. So what they did is they went in and at the top of the mountain, out of the rock, they carved a city. And so that's why they sit there and say, look, we're untouchable. But you know what? God did what he said he's going to do. Because now, this is just a tourist attraction. There are no Edomites anymore. God did exactly what he said he was going to do. Let's keep going. He says, because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. On the day that you stood aloof, we're like, look at me, look at me. On the day that strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you were like one of them. But do not gloat over the day of your brother and the day of his misfortune. Because, yeah, I mean, again, he's talking about this relationship that's between two. He says, but why are you gloating? Why are you looking down on them? Why are you so full of pride? He says, do not rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin. Do not boast in the day of distress. Do not enter the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Do not gloat over his disaster in the day of his calamity. Do not loot his wealth in the day of his calamity. How dare you, after they've already been conquered by somebody, I'm disciplining them. I don't need your help. God says, I got this. I don't need you to get in there and make things worse for them. Why would you go in and after they've lost the things that they had, go in and take what little they had left? He says, do not stand at the crossroads to cut off his fugitives. Do not hand over his survivors in the day of distress. For the day of the Lord is near upon all the nations. And look, this is law of the harvest. Look, as you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. This is good deeds and bad deeds. It's the law of the harvest. What you plant, if you plant bitterness, what do you harvest? Bitterness. You plant hope, you get hope. You plant anger, divisiveness, hate, you reap anger, divisiveness, hate. If you teach your children to lie, you're going to harvest dishonest children. If you're unethical at home, your children are going to grow up and they're going to be unethical. That's what you're planting in their lives. If you're planting integrity and life, then that's what you're going to grow. And you're going to get more of it than what you planted. You plant character, you plant godliness, you're going to reap more of that. You plant bitterness, you're going to reap more of that. It says, for as you have drunk on my holy mountain, so all the nations shall drink continually. They shall drink and swallow and shall be as though they had never been. It says, look, I'm going to take, you think you got it. I'm going to take care of you. It says, but in Mount Zion, which is Jerusalem, the capital of Judah at this point, there shall be those who escape, and it shall be holy, and the house of Jacob shall possess their own possessions. All the stuff you've taken from them, they're going to get back. The house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau stubble. It's going to be gone. It says they shall burn them and consume them. Excuse me. And there shall be no survivors for the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken. And so this is very plain. This is it. This is the law of the harvest. We will always get what we give. We will always get what we give. We will always harvest what we plant. We will always reap what we sow. It's the law of the harvest. It just works that way. So whatever it is that you're planting, whatever it is you're sowing, whatever it is you're pouring into your life, that is what you are going to reap. That is what you're going to harvest. That is what you are going to get. So let's talk about this in the context of how do we respond to other people. Because we could talk about the Edomites and all this kind of stuff for a long time, but let's do application today. Because the Edomites, I mean, they're just a distraction. God wiped them out. They're not here anymore. He did what he said he was going to do. So, Matthew chapter 7, verse 2. All right, it says, for with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Now, this is the context we talk about. Oh, don't judge anybody. Well, actually, as Christ followers, we're supposed to judge one another. But God says, look, I'm the judge. And realize that if you're looking at somebody else, are you looking down on them with pride? Or are you looking at them with humility? What are you sowing? What are you planting? See, as Christ followers, we've got the opportunity to be remade into being Christ bearers. And see, this happens over and over again in the Bible, right? King David, he's out on top of the roof. He looks over, he sees there's this lady over there. He goes, wow, she's really attractive. But she's married. So she comes over to his palace, and there's some sinful activity that happens. And God says to him, listen, your sin that has been done in private will be done to you in public. And so what happens later on, his son, Absalom, exposes David's sin to everyone. And then Absalom takes it to the nth degree in shaming his father. How about Abraham? Abraham, he set off very early before he had children. He goes to visit this king. And the king says, hey, this lady who's with you, Sarah, who is she? And he goes, oh, it's my sister. It was his wife. But he starts off telling lies. And so he harvests a crop of lies over and over and over again in his life. It happens with us as parents too, right? You know, somebody comes and knocks on your door, and you kind of look over and see who, you can kind of barely see who it is. Like, oh God, it's that guy. And so you tell your kids, tell him I'm not here. And see, what we do, we teach our children our behavior, but we don't teach them our boundaries. Or, hey, you know what? It's Friday. It's a holiday weekend. Tell you what, I'm going to call in sick on Friday, and we'll leave Thursday and go somewhere for 3 days. They're learning your behavior, but they don't know the boundaries. And those little things which seem like innocent, what happens is that later on, your kids grow up and they're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and they start lying to you. You're like, why are you doing this? I didn't teach you this. You're like, hello, I think you did. Hey, why when I called you last night because you weren't home and you said you were at a friend, but I found out that you were actually at a party last night? Why did you do that to me? And really, if you would talk with them long enough, you would probably find out that they'd say, I'm doing that, Dad, because you taught me to do that. See, they learned the behavior from us, but they didn't learn the boundary. So so what you give is what you're going to get. So, but here's the thing: we plant something, but the harvest seldom comes up overnight. See, we want it to come up immediately, like hurry, right? I planted some tomatoes a few weeks ago, 5 or 6 weeks ago, and so I was gone earlier this week for 3 or 4 days out of town, and came back because when I left, I had some green tomatoes. I thought, when I come back, they're going to be red. They're not red yet. I'm a little bothered about that. All right, but I'm not going to jerk those tomato plants out of the ground just because it hadn't happened yet, because I know it's going to happen because I plant these little tiny Roma tomatoes because I make the best guacamole in 3 states. And so I'm just salivating over guacamole when it shows up here. I planted some blueberries for my daughter, and because you know why? Not because she loves blueberries, because I'm selfish, and because I'm going to get blueberries and say, hey, sweetheart, how about making a blueberry pie? And she'll go, okay, right? I'm going to half as dumb as I look, right? But the harvest seldom comes up overnight, and it takes a while sometimes. But God keeps every promise and carries out every threat, and it's always on His timetable. He does what He says He's going to do. But the truth is that we will live most of our lives in the in-between times. We give, and we're like, okay, so when do I get? It's coming. It's coming. I planted. When do I harvest? It's coming. It's going to show up. It's not on our timetable, but it's coming. And the truth is the longer that we wait, the more easily we forget the law of the harvest. We're like, oh, this is not going to happen. You know, you're giving, you're planting, you're sowing, you're doing these things, and it's just not happening. What's going on? It's coming. It just doesn't always happen on our timetable. And so, and there's also, remember, sometimes we plant bad things, right? And we equate delayed consequences with no consequences. I used to love it when I got big enough to where my mom, when she would spank me, it didn't hurt anymore. I'd kind of turn around and go, is that all you got? And that didn't go well. But she said, I just wait till your father comes home. And I'm like, well, whatever. You know? And so then I kind of dreaded when my father came home. And then one time she said, you just wait till your father come home. And she forgot to tell him. And I'm like, yes, no consequences. She forgot. This is great. But then about 3 days later, she remembered. And I'm like, oh, crud, right? And we assume that delayed reward means no reward. See, maybe you've been praying for someone in your family to come to know Christ for years. Don't give up. Maybe you've been giving financially, and you're like, well, God, when's it going to get better? Don't give up. Maybe you've been kind toward a friend of yours who's far from the Lord, and that person just keeps being mean to you. Don't give up. Don't give up. So we harvest what we plant. We all want the miracles, but nobody wants the mess. And sometimes it takes a while. Galatians 6:9 says this. It says, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we don't leave the farm. Because you can plant what you're planting, but if you don't take care of it and you abandon the crop and walk out, what's probably going to happen? Everything's probably going to die. But what does it say? It says, it's coming in due season if, it's a condition there, if we do not give up. So when I experience success, let's talk about this, okay, because the Edomites were very prideful. Are you planting pride or are you planting humility? Because the truth is God pulls down the prideful and lifts up the humble. That's what he does. James chapter 4, verse 6, it says, but he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I want God on my side, not opposing me. Pride is not thinking or saying that you're good at something. That's okay. If you're the fastest kid in 8th grade, awesome. Tell everybody you're the fastest kid in 8th grade. If you're the fastest kid in 8th grade, that's true. That's not bragging. That's a fact. If you say I'm the fastest kid in the universe, that's a lie. If you're saying I'm the fastest kid in 8th grade because you want to look down at everybody and say, hey, don't you wish you could run as fast as I do? That's not so good. But it's okay to do things. It's okay. Listen, if you've got trophies, you can invite Jesus over and say, hey, Jesus, here are my trophies. If you say, hey, Jesus, come over and look at my trophies and let me show you how much better I am than everybody else, that's not so good. But it's okay to say, look, this is what God has done in me. This is what God has gifted in me. And to say, I want to use this for his sake and for his glory. Pride, on the other hand, looks down on others and considers oneself better than others. Paul says it like this in Romans chapter 12. He says, for by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. So don't think that you are more than you really are. Now, in Proverbs chapter 6, it says that there are 7 things that God can't stand. Right? It says there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him. And if I'm speaking somewhere and I use this passage of Scripture and I say, so what is first on the list? What does God hate the most? And people go, pride. I'm like, eh. What does it say? Haughty eyes. Those are not like good-looking eyes, not like haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood when you're looking down on someone. All right? So I know it's been a while, right? So take the clipboard, flip it over on the back. We're almost done, all right? So box number 1, would you rather be proud or would you rather be humble? And I want you to draw a picture of someone looking down on somebody else, because humility is treating people as if they are more important than you. The disciples were not more important than Jesus, but Jesus treated them differently. The disciples were human. Jesus was God in the bod, but Jesus treated them just as if they were more important than him. All right, so number 2, when I come across those in need, do I plant indifference or compassion? Do you plant, when you see somebody's hurting, are you indifferent toward them or compassionate toward them? If we're indifferent to the needs of others, turns out God's going to be indifferent to our needs. God says, look, I don't hear you when you pray, when you're indifferent to other people, when you don't care. Proverbs 21 says, whoever closes his ear to the cry of the poor will himself call out and not be answered. Now what these 2 words, indifference and compassion, what do they mean? Well, indifference is choosing to ignore those in need. I'm done with you. I don't even want to see you. I'm just going to walk away from you. I'm going to pretend you're not there. It's too painful for me to look at you. Proverbs 28 says, whoever gives to the poor will not want, but he who hides his eyes will get many a curse. And I get it. Sometimes you see something, oh, God, it's so hard to look at. But how are we going to feel compassion for them if we're not willing to look at it where they are and not willing to bear their burden? Biblical compassion is choosing to help those who God puts in my path. And so the second box number 2 on the back, would you rather be indifferent or compassionate? Circle one of those. And then draw a set of eyes, just some eyes, just because sometimes we don't know what to do, and so we just stare. And we don't say anything, we don't do anything, we just stare because we're indifferent. Number 3, when I come across weakness, do I plant greed or generosity? Now, I used this cantaloupe today to explain the law of the harvest to everyone who is a kid, because I know that your parents already understand this completely, and they completely understand that the more that they give, the more that they get, the more that they plant, the more they harvest, the more that they sow, the more that they reap. I know they already knew that. I just wanted you to understand it, right? See, when we're greedy, that's like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. It's just going to make you worse. It feels better at first, but long term, it's going to make you really sick. Greed is not wanting more. It's organizing your life around getting more. How can I accumulate more things and more people and more stuff? Solomon says this in Ecclesiastes 5. It says, he who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. And so if we become greedy people, here's what happens. Our relationships get broken. The fruit of greed is usually broken relationships. That's why marriages break up. That's why parents and children don't talk to one another anymore. It's not the only reason, but if somebody's greedy, see, because what does it do? Greed just takes and takes and takes and takes and takes, and the other person gets dried up because the other person is always being taken from. The friend that you used to have, the neighbor that you got in an argument with 3 years ago. So are you quick to be stingy, or are you quick to share? Do you offer your best, or do you offer your leftovers? Because that's what we do, right? Stingy is, well, I got half a ham sandwich in the fridge that I ate from last night, but you can have the other half. You want it? Nobody wants that. Doesn't cost you anything. If you don't eat, you're going to throw it out. But what we do, generosity is when you offer people the best, your best hospitality, your best effort, your best prayer, your best concern, your best compassion, your best gift, your best, your best, your best, your best. That's generosity. So the last box is, would you rather be greedy or generous? So which one would you rather be? And then draw a picture of your favorite thing or your favorite person. And think about, would you be willing to share that thing or that person with someone else? All right? So, some quick homework questions for this week. This first one I think is a good one to think about a little bit. How can we better use social media with humility? You know, I ask this question a lot. Would you rather be right, or would you rather make a difference? And for the last 3 months, I have seen so much anger there. And everybody wants to be right. What about if Christ followers, if we would serve one another that way? And then this one down here, who's God put in your path to help? So the law of the harvest, it applies to everything. When you lift Jesus up, he lifts you up. The more you lift him up, the more he lifts you up. It's just really, really simple. Because as you lift him up, you can't help but be more humble. And that is just your position spiritually, and you begin to get closer and closer to him. He lifts you up. The more you worship him, the more your troubles seem to fade away. Why? Because what you give is what you get. What you plant is what you harvest. What you reap is what you sow. So if you think, well, yeah, God created me to be a worshiper, and so I'm going to worship, and the more and more and more and more I worship, the more that I lift him up, the more he's going to lift me up. And all those other troubles that seem to be so heavy, they seem to just fade away. Because you begin to understand God has got me. He's going to take care of me. And it's not just a hashtag, it's reality that God's got you. So will you pray with me? And then let's worship him. Let's lift him up. Heavenly Father, you're a good and gracious, kind and loving. You serve us with humility, even though you're the creator of the universe. You not only are kind toward us, you are compassionate. You know our struggles and walk with us through them. When our hearts are hurting, your heart is hurting. And God, you are generous with all things toward us. So I pray that for just a few moments that we'd lift you up. God, I pray that we would plant deeply. We plant a lot. We plant more than we could imagine that we could ever plant. And God, that our storehouses would overflow with what you've got for us. We love you. Thank you that you love us first. And so we worship you and adore you. In the strong name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. If you will, let's stand together and let's worship him. And if you're online, don't leave. Hang on for just a minute and worship with us.
I cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone, Messiah still and all alone. Sing, oh, praise the name. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise, oh Lord our God.
Hey, thanks again for being here this morning. Thanks for joining us on.
Hey, Southcrest, I hope you enjoyed that message and worship this morning. What an incredible moment. And just, the harvest and all that can come from Obadiah. My prayer is that over the next couple of days, you really take a look at that and check Obadiah and read Obadiah and study Obadiah, because I think that some of that is going to be super powerful for you. One of the things that I've really been encouraged by is just my own time, just spending time with Jesus. Usually it happens about 6:30 in the morning, and just being able to talk to Jesus. And I know what happens when I miss it. And so my encouragement this week for you is to look at Obadiah and see and really study and see what God has to say to you. Just a couple of things before we close. I know that next Sunday, there's a women's Bible study that happens. It's starting at, I believe, 5 o'clock. You can check out southcrest.church for more information, or email Rebecca Lander, rlander at southcrest.tv for more information, because it's going to be a powerful Bible study starting next Sunday. We also have a couple other things. Don't forget our Thursday night service and worship. It's a powerful moment if you want to come and kind of be around where there's less people, a little bit more worship on the back end. It doesn't really end unless it has to. Honestly, it's pretty cool. It's a great night. It's one of my favorite nights of the week is Thursday night. And then obviously every week at 9 and 11, we'll be here live. Now, we do things a little different on the online campus, so it's not necessarily in the room. Sometimes we're going into the room. Sometimes we're doing some different things, bringing in some different guests and that kind of thing. So it'll be an interesting moment. I encourage you to share with everyone. Hey, share our feed. Hey, here it is. Especially when we're going through the Bible like we are. So it's pretty cool. But hey, we love you. We hope you have a great week. If you did make a decision for Jesus, I want you to know, I'd love to know about it. And if you'll do me a favor and text Jesus to 770-800-8622. Again, text Jesus to 770-800-8622. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, love to hear them. C. Bowman at southcrest.church, and I will make sure I answer those promptly, I promise. All right? Hey, have a great week. Go out, tell somebody about Jesus this week. Tell your friends about Jesus. Go develop and build relationships with people. We love you, and we'll see you soon.